So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Academic Half Day. My name is Sunil Bapat. I'm a fifth year resident. I hope you have all taken the time to do introductions in the room and to everyone online. Today's presentation is going to be like a webinar style presentation. So bear with me if there's any glitches. I'm kind of hoping to do this in one shot, but if not, there might be a couple clips that you'll just have to play in sequential order. So for everyone that hasn't met me before or is new to Academic Half Day or new online, I'm a fifth year resident and I'm doing my senior public health and leadership rotation in Regina. And unfortunately, I'm not able to present live today. So I'm hope that this presentation brings some more conversation, and I'm happy to discuss if you ever meet me in person after. So today's topic is the intersectional approach, and this is a kind of building on our population health assessment theme for Academic Half Day, and it builds on learnings from last week, the population health approach. And so with that, I'll get started. So for the Royal College objectives, part of section 2.1.2.5, apply knowledge of the principles of population health assessment. I'm sure this intersectional approach probably is captured in other objectives as well, but since we're in this theme, I'm leaving that there. The outline for today's presentation. So I'm going to start off with some basic definitions. I'm going to move into intersectionality and its role in public health and in public policy, then talk about the intersectional approach, and then some examples, and possibly some case studies at the very end. So learning objectives for today: to be able to define intersectionality, intersectional approach, to know how intersectionality works in public health, and to understand context of the intersectional approach in practice. So some basic definitions. So these are terms that I'm going to be using in the presentation, so we can, or hopefully after the presentation, you can go through my PowerPoint again that I will share with the group, and you can look at the definitions there, or also keep in mind some of these words I'll be using throughout the presentation. So I'll be hoping that you remember all of this, but and for the seniors at least, I hope these should be memorized by now, right? So I'll just start off with health inequality, and this is a generic term to refer to systematic differences in health between groups of people, including both those that arise naturally and need not imply a moral judgment, and also those whose origins lie in social disadvantage. Health disparities are consistent contrasts in health status between different population groups. Refers to a subset of health inequalities that include variations that are probably systematic and arise from social or other forms of disadvantage that may, in theory, be correctable. Health equity refers to the idea that ideally everyone should attain their full health potential and that no one should be disadvantaged from achieving this potential because of their social position or other socially determined circumstance. And health inequity refers to those inequalities in health that are deemed unnecessary, avoidable, and unjust. So, what is intersectionality? So, intersectionality promotes an understanding of human beings as shaped by the interaction of differential social locations, example, race, ethnicity, and indigeneity, gender, class, sexuality, geography, age, disability, ability, migration status, religion. These interactions occur within a context of connected systems and structures of power, example, laws, policies, state governments, and other political and economic unions, religious institutions, media. Through such processes, interdependent forms of privilege and oppression shaped by colonialism, imperialism, racism, homophobia, ableism, and patriarchy are created. So this is the definition that is widely accepted, and I've left the reference from here. So there's many similar definitions if you were to look this up, if you were to do a Google search. The way in the most like basic form of the definition I thought that was capturing most of that previous slide was intersectionality is the study of intersections between different forms of oppression or discrimination. So as humans, we all carry a series of identities that make our individual experiences of oppression unique. Intersectionality is a way to think about and act upon social inequality and discrimination. It offers a promising approach to these issues within public policy and within public health. Intersectionality also offers a way of conceiving of how structural factors interact to produce specific health outcomes in individuals. Intersectionality seeks to promote equity and social justice. Work in the field of public health has recognized for some time that the social locations of groups and individuals has a significant impact on health. When health outcomes are compared by income, gender, race, or education, to name just a few, a picture emerges clearly that these factors play key roles in determining health and well-being. So what are some common examples of barriers? So people living in poverty, they have higher rates of many diseases and die younger than those in higher income groups. Racialized groups in Canada have poorer health outcomes than white Canadians. Women often have disadvantaged health outcomes when compared to men. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals often face significant barriers in access to healthcare. LGBT youth in particular have significant higher rates of homelessness and suicide. So these are just some common barriers, but there's a lot more we could talk about. But this just kind of a prelude to this slide, the intersectionality wheel. So the description is actually on the next slide, but if you take a look closely, like you'll see like the structural issues are more of the outer ring, and then the inner circle is the one's unique identity, and then the second circle inside is kind of like the determinants of health, really, and then the third ring is kind of more of like the oppressive kind of factors. So this slide kind of just illustrates that. So the innermost circle represents a person's unique circumstances. The second circle represents aspects of identity, and that kind of had like those determinants of health. The third circle from the inside represents many different types of discrimination attitudes that impact your identity. And the outer circle represents larger forces and structures that work together to reinforce exclusion. So it is impossible to name every sort of discrimination, identity, or structure, but these are just like some examples to help you give you a sense of what intersectionality is. So intersectionality in public health. So the role in public health, it provides the discipline of public health with a critical, unifying, interpretive, and analytical framework for reframing how public health scholars conceptualize, investigate, analyze, and address disparities and social inequality in health. A second contribution relates to the way in which structural determinants and their relationship to power are placed in the foreground. The locations of social disadvantage are not arbitrary. They are the result of structural, institutional, and systematic relations which put some social locations or identities in positions of advantage and others in positions of disadvantage. So what about intersectionality and public policy? So a number of tools have been developed to mitigate or eliminate health inequalities. So examples of these include sex and the gender-based analysis. Gender-based analysis which includes social locations besides gender but maintains gender's primacy. And then there's health impact assessment and various other types of impact assessments that explicitly include an equity focus. So these tools above that I've just listed focus on more of like a single category. And how might this policy affect women or those living in poverty, for example? So intersectionality aims to improve upon all of these examples above. So intersectionality focuses on interactions of different social locations, systems, and processes, investigates rather than assumes the significance of any combination of factors.